Well, hey, mamas. Jessica Coulter here. We are talking about college some more. We are going to focus on what do you actually buy your student, your tween, or not your tween, your teen, your young adult for that first apartment, for that dorm room. And we're not going to talk about like specific items. We're going to talk about what are those some of these rules, some things to keep in mind as you're looking at the different lists, the different blogs, all the different cool things that are out there on Amazon, on all these different websites. You might be going, my teen needs this. We're going to talk about some principles, 3 of them, that you want to keep in mind as you're looking at this stuff so you only buy what your child actually needs. Okay. Before we go too much further, I do want to know, have you started the shopping yet? Have you started looking up things to buy? I want to know down below, especially if you're a mama of a student about to go to college for the first time. Let me know down below. And do also know there's an awesome freebie in the description that you're going to want to grab after the video, but we'll talk about that more in a little bit. So the very first tip, the very first thing I want you to keep in mind when getting ready to start buying for that dorm room is this. Ask the teens, ask your sons, ask your daughters, college. Okay, because there's a pretty much a 90% chance that that school has already put the list together. And you want this list because each college is different. Okay. And if your child's going to be in a dorm or an apartment on campus or, somehow some housing connected to the school, you want this list. Okay. Because there are going to be things that are going to be recommended. There's going to be things that are prohibited. There's going to be things that you never thought of because you haven't lived at that particular campus in that particular location. And your teen hasn't either. Okay. This is his first year. So definitely ask the college. That should be something that your child gets when choosing a dorm, when going through the roommate process. And we're going to talk about roommates in a little bit, so stick around if you've got questions about roommates. But do know the college list is a perfect place to start because maybe on the tour you saw like a dorm room, but it wasn't the actual dorm your teen's going to live in. So maybe this campus, this location has desks, or this location has built-in dressers. I mean, we want to know really what you're working with, and you can't know that unless you and your teen really talk to the school and figure out, okay, what's possible? Like, what are my choices here? What's the college allowing? What's the college suggesting? Because if you don't know yet, there's this magic thing called extra long twin sheets, and they can be a pain to find. But a lot of colleges, because our kids, are adults, so some of them, especially the boys, could be over 6 feet tall. We need those extra long beds. So definitely check with the college first. My second tip for you here, second thing to consider as you're trying to decide what is it that I buy, I want you to think about the value for your teen of that item during college, let alone after college. If this is something that your teen's only going to ever need, maybe freshman year, then you don't want to spend a lot of money. Okay. If your teen is going to be in a dorm situation that, it's going to be one semester, maybe the whole year, but never going to use that thing again, we don't need to spend a bunch of money on it. Okay. And the thing is, too, your teen might live with someone that she loves and, becomes her roommate for the next 2 or 3 years, maybe even longer than that. Or it could be, the situation is so horrible at the end of the semester, your child's like, I'm never, ever, ever going to stay in this dorm again. Well, again, same campus, but might be different situations. Because I can tell you, I lived in a dorm that had 2 halves, like the new half and the old half. Old half didn't have any AC, new half did. And, setup was totally different with the furniture, what was provided. So definitely keep that in mind. Now, I will tell you, if this thing that you're thinking about buying is like a must have, it's something that your teens going to need to survive, then yeah, get the color that your teen wants, get the brand that is good. Go and spend a little bit more money, but only on those things that your teen knows, I have to have this at home to survive, so I'm going to know I need this at school. Okay, or if it's something that your teen really, really wants, yeah, it could be worth buying those too, but we don't need a whole lot of wants at college unless there's some value on it. And especially if it's something like furniture related your teen can use, in her first apartment after graduation, yeah, definitely we're spending some money on that. Or if it's something, mama, that you're like, I could always use more of this, or, this would be useful at my house too. Again, maybe we're spending a little bit more money because it has more value, because if your teen doesn't use it, you'll use it. So it's not like it's just going to sit in the closet, go to the thrift store, be thrown out at the end of the semester, because that does happen too. I will say that before we move into the third part is just realize that if you buy your child something big for that first dorm, for that first apartment, and it's a pain to get it to and from that location, think about it's going to be a pain to get it home or to the next location. And I got to tell you too, you've probably driven by college campuses and seen how much stuff is by the dumpsters at the end of every school year. So just think about, do I want my child's blank, whatever you're thinking about buying, by that dumpster? Okay, because it's a possibility, depending on what that thing is, depending on, how rough, how gentle your teen is on stuff, let alone, exactly what your teen's life looks like these next several months at college. So before we talk about roommates, which is our final tip, I want to check in and say, hey, thank you for being here, Mama. I do want to say we're on Facebook. We're on YouTube right now. We're live. So make sure you follow, make sure you subscribe, because this is only part 2 of our college series. So if you've got some more questions, you do have a child going into college, you definitely don't want to miss the next couple of videos. And we will get to high school and middle school later on, I promise. And do know, as the CEO and founder of Ace Cookie Tutoring and Study with Jessie, I help teens love to learn by teaching them how to learn. So there is all sorts of content here, both places as well, about study skills. So if you've got questions, I've got answers, and would love to talk to you and your teen one-on-one through a talk with Jessie. All right, so let's move into the last part, shall we? Let's talk about roommates. Now, I know mamas that are watching, you might have had a roommate. You might have had 3 or 4. So I'm curious, how did that roommate situation go for you, whether it was at college, whether it was your first apartment, or maybe even now. Maybe you have some friends that you live with now, whether they're family or not. And I can tell you that, I had 2 different roommates. The first one, we were great on paper. Like, we liked the same stuff, the same, interests, like on surface level. We did great. And then we met, and it took less than 2 weeks for us to live together to realize this is not good. Not good. And so at semester, I moved out, which was to both of our benefits. And my second roommate, totally different, but we were friends, which made a big difference. So highly, if that's possible and your teen gets to live with someone that he or she actually already knows, that can be a good thing. But just know the roommate thing makes a big difference as to what to actually purchase and what to, take to college. Okay. Because your child is going to be living with this person or maybe multiple persons. And, it's probably going to be sharing. Okay. So we have to decide, does your teen want to share? Can your teen share this thing? Is this for the room? Is this for your child? Okay. And then we also have to think about the space. Okay. Because your child's bringing stuff, the other person's bringing stuff, and it could be like a suite, and so each set of people has a room. There could be a common area. It could be an apartment where your child needs everything. Okay, so definitely think about the roommate side of things, and then also make sure your teen actually has some kind of contact with the roommate over the summer before you guys buy a bunch of stuff, before you show up at campus move-in day with a bunch of stuff, because we want to make sure that we're not bringing 3 TVs. We're not going to end up with 4 mini fridges that we don't have room for, or we don't want to get to the point, or you don't, and your family doesn't, your teen definitely doesn't get to the campus and be like, no, I thought you were going to bring, I don't know, food. You agreed to snacks the first day before the cafeteria is open. Whatever. We do not want to end up at college with too much of the wrong thing and missing something and having to go shopping last minute. Okay, because if you have not started the search yet and you haven't gone to the stores yet, you'll notice there's a lot of awesome stuff right now for dorm rooms and apartments. All sorts of silverware and plates and flatware with cutlery. I'm trying to think of the word I'm looking for plates and stuff, but microwaves and mini fridge. There's so many options right now, and there probably will be through August, but you'll notice that, as more parents, more teens start shopping for August and that next step, okay, dorm rooms and college and, you know, all those things, that the choices will dwindle. So definitely, not only do we want to make sure we do it sooner rather than later, we want to make sure we're buying the right stuff. So if this video has helped, be sure to like, be sure to share the biggest thing that's going to, help you and your teen the most. And do know, I did not specifically say buy this, don't buy this. And that was totally my intention. I wanted you to have some principles, some tips to follow as you're trying to decide what is it that we should buy for college. So thank you so much for watching. Be sure to come back tomorrow for tip 3 about preparing your college freshman. And most importantly, or I don't know if it's most important, but it's definitely important, is you want to grab that Homework Buster, that freebie. That link is in the description. It's 5 tips to bust through your teens' homework objections. They will not be living at home next year. At least I know a lot of mamas will not have teens in college at home next year. And even if they are, you still do not want to be fighting with your child about homework. You don't want to have to be worried, are they going to, make use of that scholarship, of all that money I've paid to send them to school? We want your teens to do their homework, to learn as much as they can, to get the best grades they can, but by doing it on their own without you having to be their mama. So grab that Homework Buster so you don't have to worry about your teens with their homework in college. So see you tomorrow.